Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual FIDM Fashion Club meetup. We're so excited to welcome you, and we hope everyone's having a great day so far. So let's go ahead and get started with today's meetup. My name is Kelly Lynn Shepard, and I am the Fashion Club Director, and I'll be your co-host for today's event, along with our Fashion Club Program Administrator, Trent Nakamura. But before we get started, I wanted to give a welcome shout out to all of our new FIDM Fashion Clubs that started this year in both the US and internationally. If you don't already have an official FIDM Fashion Club at your school, but you're looking to start one, you can start a fashion club in 3 easy steps. First, request an application by going to fashionclub.com, fill out the registration form, and you'll be emailed the application to start your official FIDM Fashion Club. Be sure to fill out the application completely before sending it back to us at info@fashionclub.com. And once we receive your application and your club has been approved, you'll receive your starter kit. If you have any questions about the application or how to start a club at your high school or college, you can always reach Trent Nakamura and I at info@fashionclub.com. Now, you might remember him from Fashion Club Day. Now, I'd like to reintroduce you to Trent Nakamura. Welcome, Trent.
Hey there, everybody. So yeah, my name is Trent Nakamura, and I'm the Fashion Club Program Administrator, as well as the co-host for today's event. Now I'd like to introduce to you guys our guest speaker, Sean Kam, who is the owner and founder of the Dressmaker LLC in San Diego, California. And also, fun fact, Sean and I are both from Hawaii, so we wanted to give a shout out to our 2 fashion clubs that are based in Hawaii. We hope that you guys were able to join us today. So welcome, Sean.
Hi, everybody.
Hey there, Sean. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to see all the other students and see what they have, and get to talk and exchange ideas.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today. Can you first start off with just introducing yourself to our audience so they can get to know a little bit about yourself as well as your journey to FIDM?
Yeah, sure. So a little about me. I have an 11-year background in the Coast Guard. I knew I loved art. I didn't know what direction I was going to take. And upon leaving the military, it was only then, through searching for the right school, did I stumble upon FIDM. And it was interesting to see FIDM contrasting to other design or art programs, because it's more of an applied art, and linking up design with the fashion around the realm of the fashion industry was very intriguing to me. And also the in-depth initial interview process of finding out what I liked, what I saw myself doing, and what my attributes were, made me feel very comfortable with the whole process, as opposed to submitting an application and a payment and then enrolling. So I think that's why I ended up choosing FIDM overall. And kind of what started me on this path of starting my own business was after I finished my my fashion design program. It was only then I decided to venture out and do internships. So I did 4 internships. I did 1 corporate internship with Chubby Shorts. If any of you are familiar with that, I still have a few pairs that I still like to use during the warm weather. I did 2 other independent female-owned design businesses within the Bay Area, and they're on the smaller scale, which helped me get a little more hands-on and in-depth experience, dealing with everything from checking the specs on a garment, to quality control, to working with the owner at pop-ups. And then the 4th one, I should say, it was a social media it was a social media geared app at photo editing on the spot. But all those 4 jobs together kind of helped me figure out what I did and didn't want out of a job. So after trying all of those, that's how I knew I wanted to start my own business and become an entrepreneur. When I started the Dressmaker LLC, it was geared towards budget, because it had to begin with working class, because coming from a lower working class family, you can't afford the ideal of customization of the garment. You would think it's the wealthier people that usually can afford those types of things. So if you've seen, oh, actually right there on the screen, together we'll create, re-envision, and repeat, meaning the cycle of repurposing not just fabrics, but your garments. So if you end up working with me at some point, we'll end up reconstructing garments or deconstructing them and reconstructing them together, figuring out what works best with the client as far as budget and the design and the types of fabrics that they like or favor in colors, textures, if they have any allergies. So I encompass the whole realm of sustainability, if you will. It's a little more applied here than just buying raw materials that are 100% cotton or vegan leather, if you will. You know, giving my clients and customers an experience and options. Options are very big for me, especially when you're coming up with something, because it's very important to involve the customer and client along the way as far as the process goes. And I love what I'm doing, and that's why I'm still doing it.
Right, right. So you mentioned a little bit about your internships, which internships are really important at FIDM just because we feel like it's important to have like a real world experience alongside your education. So I'm happy you actually mentioned those internships that you did. But when you did come to FIDM originally, did you already kind of have skills as a sewer or designer, or did you kind of come as like a blank slate with no real experience in that?
It was definitely a blank slate. It was a little more raw because I already knew I was gonna, when I already knew I was gonna join FIDM as my final decision, there happened to be a green expo that was going on in San Francisco, and that was my chance to try my hands at sewing. And it was a competition, so it was geared towards fashion design students. I ended up doing it. I won, I guess you could say. And it was a very eye-opening experience because that's how I knew I liked to sew. Even though I didn't know, I knew I committed myself because I did a lot of research, learning, the basic techniques and how a sewing machine operated. And, it was my first time working a zipper. I had never sewn a zipper before. So, if at some point you get to sewing, zippers were the hardest for me, and it is for a majority of people. But that's how I got my experience and knew that I wanted to do it.
Right. And so if any students here are watching and they're thinking of either pursuing a career in fashion design or any other design major, do you have any advice for them who want to actually pursue that education at FIDM or any other design type of school?
Design or arts in general, I say if you really want to do it. It'll be harder if you don't have a support group. So find those people to talk to. If not your parents, friends, teachers, counselors, find a mentor or another student that might be able to talk with you as far as getting an eye experience into the school that you want and how to go about it. And for me, I always say if your dream school is really expensive and you can't get to it, at least not at the moment, look at the community schools around you. Look at what you can afford, what you have to work with. Some of you might be ready to move out. Some of you are still not ready to move out into, away from your family, from your hometown just yet. Work with what's around you and what you can afford, and then build on that. Because I guarantee you, the more experience you build and gathering all that information and education, the better you'll be prepared when you're ready to hit the ground running as far as attacking that, that school you really want to go to. Because once you're in, you just feel like you belong there, and it's a lot easier for you to transition.
Right. So cool. So Sean, let's take a quick look at a TikTok video that Sean made with other FIDM alumni and students. That was such a fun video. I always like seeing those videos when students kind of from different majors collaborate on a project together. But could you kind of tell us a little bit about how you got involved with FIDM social media?
Well, starting it when I was attending, I knew I had a different mindset coming in. I wanted to experience everything at face value. Coming in as an adult, you kind of just see everything. So I wanted to be involved. I was on student council at one point, Mode Magazine. I did that too. And that led to tying in with social media. So I got to know Whitney Sutherland, who's down in LA. I tried to figure out ways to involve other people around the campus, not just the fashion design people. If you think about it, I don't know if you've attended, other people have attended before or met other people. Fashion design is like a smaller percentage, specifically that program, as opposed to other programs. There's a lot of product development, interior design, merch marketing, graphic design. So I tried to interview, talk to other students, not just the ones attending. When there were students looking at attending FIDM and they were doing the tours with admissions counselors, I would interview them and ask them, why they wanted to attend or what they find intriguing. And through doing social media, it kind of just opened up this network of comfortable socializing with people on campus, visiting campus, and what they thought about it. And that just kind of came naturally after that point.
It's important to kind of put yourself out there and try to make connections, especially if you're trying to pursue a career in the creative industries, just because you never know, like if you're a fashion designer, if you ever need to have like a graphic designer or a social media marketer or any other kind of like person to assist you with what you're doing. So even like people who are joining now for the fashion club, like you guys all know that you guys are all at least a little bit creative or thinking of being creative, pursuing a career in the creative industry. So I always encourage people, especially the fashion club members, to always try to connect with each other, because you never know in the future when you're in the industry, if you want to, meet some other people or you want to collaborate on projects. So I always want to encourage you guys to always try to connect, especially through social media, with other people who you may in the future work with even. Yeah, so Sean did a advertisement with the company Nextdoor. So let's go ahead and check out that advertisement that he did.
Starting my new business, The Dressmaker LLC, started with vintage women's wear, and everything I make is from scraps. I just set up my business Nextdoor page, and I've been getting a lot of referrals from people. Nextdoor has been very supportive in that sense.
So can you briefly explain what Nextdoor is and kind of how it had an impact on what you do as a business owner and just a designer in general?
Okay, so Nextdoor app, I started using it when we moved down to San Diego last year at the beginning of the pandemic. And I figured I needed to use it because it's a new neighborhood. I needed to learn the businesses in the neighborhood. And it was a small community that we moved into. So, whenever you're running your own business, a good rule of thumb is to research your area, your customer demographics, and communicate with them. Not necessarily like market your stuff in their face all the time, because what's worse than continuous ads popping up on your screen. So Nextdoor app is an app that just builds community closer as far as, if someone's missing something or supporting local businesses just like mine, and just communicating in general. When I started using this app, I got very involved and active on it, trying to do mask making for the neighborhood and, sending them off to whomever needs them. And that just got me in regular use of it. So, support of that and being able to establish my business on there, a lot of people who ended up speaking with me beyond the masks eventually rolled into alterations and whatnot. And how this happened was Nextdoor saw I was getting pretty active. So they sent out emails to people across the country, small businesses in particular, because of COVID. And they were trying to support businesses that were struggling. So I was one of those people that got accepted through it. And I got paid to do this gig, and I got free marketing. There's a few more clips on YouTube that you can actually find me mixed in with other businesses around the country, from cupcake makers to electricians. And it's just a matter of the point of the app is just like hopping in to help each other out. And that's how this all got started for me. And the crew that came over, I'd never done filming before. So there was like a 12, 14 man crew in here, like makeup, lighting, like 4 cameras. There's like a giant electric dish set in the back with like all the tools and everything. And it was just filled with people. And it was a good experience because, like you said previously, it's good to network and learn how to work with other people, and to see all the different aspects professionally actually come together in front of my eyes and then be a part of it made a big impact on me as far as like how much it is important to have a good team.
Right. And you mentioned that sustainability was a big part of your business. Can you explain a little bit about why you wanted to incorporate sustainability into what you do and how you do that?
First of all, if you're all seeing this picture, that is not my bedroom or workroom. That's in the garage downstairs. So first of all, I have to talk about this because this is how I got started in sustainability. I knew I wanted to do it and implement it into my business. I wasn't sure how to attack it. So this kind of coincided with my previous location where I used to live in the Bay Area, and I had a neighbor who was somewhat of a sewing and fabric hoarder. Upon her moving out, her daughter had said, do not bring anything the day before. So the lady, my neighbor, was gonna throw all of that into the dump. And when she found out I could sew, she it changed over hands and I inherited it. That started me on the route to like being very affirmative on repurposing and using scraps and adults remnants. And I'm still trying to push this to my clients and customers. When they want something custom made, I say, let's look, tell me your color palette, texture, are you allergic to any fabrics? And I'll pull them all out and see what they like. And I usually get a 50-50 between them utilizing what we have left, and then the other half would then move on to sourcing from like Joann's or Britex in San Francisco, or Mood Fabrics, which is out of New Jersey and LA, I think. So it's not just about repurposing what I have in here. I'd like to advocate sustainability from all aspects, and that includes deconstructing a garment, reconstructing it, and redesigning it into something else, because not, like I said earlier, not everyone can afford a custom design. So giving people the options to finagle what they have without like throwing it away or throwing it in the trash gives them a lot of options, not just with the raw materials, but with their budget too. Because on top of raw materials, budget wise, I give people the option to either pay partial deposit or pay upfront, or they can do 3 installments to kind of give them an option for breakdown. So it's not so much of a burden when people get something custom made.
Right. So I'm sure our audience would also love to hear how you find new clients and kind of how you work with your clients to design the perfect product. Can you kind of explain that process for us?
Sure. So first of all, for marketing or promotions, I very rarely ever have to pay to do marketing, because if you provide a good experience, you're dedicated to the quality of your work, and keeping in contact and tabs with your clients, they'll do all the marketing and promoting for you. And for someone like me, who's an individual entrepreneur and owner, my hands, they're full. Like, I'm always busy. My work list is like growing, but luckily, if you work it where your customers and clients do the work for you, the pace will be gradual. You won't be overwhelmed with too many projects coming on. Usually it happens right as I'm finishing something, someone else comes in, someone recommends me to someone else. And, it's a big balance between alterations and custom design, and, dealing with all those customers and clients. So it's still a learning curve for me. But from the transition of getting new clients, fittings in general, as you can see here, you can see how in depth I go with measurements. And this is I think that is her first toile sample. So there's measurements, there's still things she wanted to change. So you can see where all the fractions and numbers come in. By the way, if you hate math, I was never good at math, and now I'm using fractions every day, and fractions was like my enemy. Granted, you won't have to use pi at any point, but you're going to have to be comfortable with fractions. And the more you use it, the more comfortable you'll get. And I think that was my problem in school, is that I wasn't able to apply something like this and figure out that I like doing it in order for it to have an effect on me remembering how to work out things. But your other question was how the process goes with clients, correct? Okay, so I have here, I call this, if you've seen Devil Wears Prada, you know, Miranda Priestley has the book. This is the book. So I have everything in here from, I have my process sheet where, you know, it's online too, as well. So if you guys want to look at it and see how it goes and figure out how a basic designer would work something custom. For me, I like things organized. So, you know, from first consultations to fittings and talking about colors and fabrics, illustrations. This is very important because it helps the client at ease knowing, okay, they're, you know, it doesn't seem like I'm lost or unorganized. They can follow through with it. Then we go through, I'll have my iPad out and I'll have designs or reference images. And, you know, I'll have all these notes based on the person, you know, what they like, what they don't like, what our quote was when we talked about it before I do up a contract. And then eventually we'll go into measurements. So all their measurements will be laid out, additional ones. I'm always finding that I don't have enough measurements. Maybe I'm just a little more technical than some other people are with measurements, but it helps me when time comes, if there's something specific on the garment that wasn't discussed and I already have it, that I don't have to call the client or customer back in. And they feel better when they know that I have, you know, all my ducks in a row.
Yeah. And how did the pandemic kind of affect your business and what you do? Did it make it harder to do? Are you doing more things virtually now?
I thought the pandemic was going to impact me, but for some reason, I think maybe because I have control over everything and how my business operates, that it actually got better for some reason. And granted, people weren't going anywhere, but because everyone was at home all the time, I had a lot of alterations during the pandemic, and I still do, because people are, you know, they're not going to buy new clothes, and they're starting to realize things are wrong with their clothes because they're going in their closets and, you know, they're a little more casual. So one is because of that pandemic, and then two is because people are preparing for when everything starts opening up again. So I have a lot of wedding requests right now, like mother of the brides. I get a lot of those. My demographic right now in this area particularly is women in their 60s, mostly mother of the brides, or just, you know, still professional women just wanting to tweak a few things or get a new dress in for an upcoming event and whatnot. So yeah, I'm actually got busier, which coincidentally led to 2 interns finding me. One's from Iowa and then one is from Georgia. So they found me. I knew I needed help. I just didn't know when and how to go about it, but they found me and emailed me directly, and luckily it worked out. So this past 2 weeks, I've been managing 2 interns safely during COVID, and they've been a big help. It's a learning curve for me because I'm teaching while I'm working and trying to balance everything in scale. And the girls are pretty efficient and they're quick learners and they're very hands-on as well. So I think that's why they chose to intern with me.
Yeah, cool. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of your finished products. If you want to kind of explain the different outfits that we see on screen.
Sure. So first of all 3 garments are made from scraps and adults, remnants, whatnot. All my garments pretty much are named after my muses or idols that I admire. So the first one on the left is the Edith skirt. So if many of you follow old glamour Hollywood, costume designer Edith Head was one of the main people. And I named it after her for style, clean lines, and functionality, because this dress or this skirt actually has 6 pockets. So it very practical. The pockets are big. The back, you can't see it on there, but if you go to my website, you could look at the back of the skirt, and it's a accordion pleated skirt. And it's somewhat close to a pencil skirt. And all of my skirts have pockets and high-waisted belts or waistbands, just to give you more of a clean silhouette. And even for me, I love wearing high trousers, so that was the way to go for me as far as vintage design. The shirt in the center, also made from scraps, is a single welt pocket with contrasting same blue color scheme, blue flannel. That is on the website as a manner of what people can look at and what the possibilities are. So that's just a sample on the website. And when you check out, you can actually tell me what your color, texture, fabric print you'd like, and I'll go ahead and source them. And if you don't like those, then we'll source from an actual third-party vendor or mill. There on the last one is the librarian skirt, which was inspired by, if you've seen The Mummy, Evie, the character Evie, is a librarian, and she was like tumbling over the ladder in the library, which I find humor when you can apply humor with costumes or clothes. So that is one of them, and it's a lightweight circle skirt with also a contrasting high-waisted belt.
Cool. So do you mind giving us a tour of your design space? I know a lot of people may not have ever seen what a design space looks like, and just kind of show us where all your creativity happens.
Sure. First of all, I just want everyone to know not everyone has to have the same design workspace, so it's always going to be different. So I'm going to flip this and I'm going to disappear for a little bit, but you can still hear me. So here is my admin desk where everything happens. My plethora of fashion design books. You're gonna blow your mind when you go to at some point, if you can get into the FIDM library. Those books are amazing. This is our kitchen. And by the way, this is a work-in loft. So I also live upstairs as well. So when I have clients over and they're waiting, I'll have them sit there. Those were from LA, actually. $70 for both. So I'm very big on budget, as you can tell. This is where all the cutting and pattern drafting happens. This is my Bible reference. This is from FIDM. This is the pattern book that I use when I forget something or I need to find out fit problems. Very good to have. Dress forms, that's my design. This is my design mood board, which is all vintage. I'm working on a little capsule to release later, so stick around for that. Here's my very first Juki sewing machine, which has been great, has a servo motor. If you attend FIDM, this is a swatch book you'll get if you're doing fashion design, and I still use this. I'm always adding more fabrics because whenever I have clients that want something that I've never seen or heard before, they want a variety, I keep them organized so I can reference them, and it makes my job easier. And it also impresses the client when you have all the options physically in front of them for them to touch. And by the way, I live in San Diego, in Kensington, San Diego. So if you've never been here, it kind of looks like the set of the Gilmore Girls. As you walk around. I mean, we have Burger Lounge downstairs and Starbucks is downstairs at the corner. And if you study art and design, you'll understand golden ratio, which is why my photos are in this format. This I want to talk about because this is something I was working on as my final for my design program when we had portfolio and presentation. So look up Rita Hayworth, ladies and gentlemen, if you have time. She's one of my muses, but this was inspired by her. So you can see the applique or embroidery belt here with attached hook and eye. And then I call these fish sleeves. They're very big underneath. This is one of my favorite, and that's why it's out, so people can see what I'm capable of when they come over. It's not just to show off, but to show technical, applying everything I learned from school. This skirt, I always get a client to come in. This you can actually throw in the washer and dryer because this is also from scratch. And like I said, all my skirts and dresses will have pockets. They always will have pockets. And the high-waisted contrasting waistband also made from scrap. We're actually working on that for 2 of my clients. So you can see all the patterns. Some of the patterns here. I have like one for a client, which is like a sailor uniform costume I'm working on for a bottle service restaurant down in the Bay or the Bay of San Diego. And more alterations. So I'm very, very, very busy. I'm gonna flip back now. Okay. And you can get an idea of how big the window is because that's it behind me. And it's a very nice workspace to be in when you have to spend long hours indoors.
Yeah.
Kind of like a terrarium.
Well, thank you for sharing your do we have any questions for Sean that we can answer now?
Yes, we do. Sean, Lexi wants to know, what programs do you use for sketching your designs?
I love Procreate because it's like a faster version of Adobe Illustrator. Granted, I am on the new iPad and I've used the new Adobe Illustrator and they're still working on tweaking it to make it more efficient to work, quickly and have all the features. Because if you've used Adobe, and there's a lot of features and buttons and everything, but for the simplicity of just drawing, and you can actually do patterns, repeats, you can animate on Procreate. I love it. And they're out of Tasmania. So I saw, what iPad do I use? I'm on the new one, the 12.9, I think, the big one. Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions?
Are there any books or online resources you recommend for aspiring designers?
Oh my gosh. Okay, because I love art illustrating, this is a good book. 100 Years of Fashion Illustrations. And this is how I found my favorite illustrator, Rene Gras. I think he was Italian. He did a lot, like Harper's Bazaar, Vogue. He did a lot of marketing ads too for the fashion industry, Dior. His was very simple and modern, even though it was during that period, but he used like 2 or 3 basic colors with bold lines just to accentuate the silhouette of his illustration. And it was very effective, which is why he got used a lot as far as like minimalism for something as elaborate as a fashion design. I showed you the pattern book. Patterns are very good. When you think about fashion design, think about what part of fashion design you want to do, because not everyone can handle everything. You either design, illustrate, and understand garment construction, or you actually do the hands-on where you actually know how to make clothes, you understand pattern making. 3D pattern making now is prominent nowadays. CLO 3D, CLO 3D is a new up and coming digital pattern drafting, meaning they can alter the patterns on the computer, have it directly sent and linked in with a manufacturer that will produce the samples and then send it out, and you get to see what it actually looks like. And they'll have the 3D models so you can see how the fabric flows or moves, or if there's something wrong with the way it moves. Yeah.
I'm going to combine a couple of these.
Yeah.
One person wants to know, was your start in fashion difficult? And then where do you get your fabrics and materials for your outfits?
Okay, was my start in fashion difficult? I loved it. From the moment I started, I loved doing it. I'm a very hands-on person, but I'm also the book nerd because I want to apply it and learn how to get better at it. So that explains why I have so many books on this stuff. You all have YouTube nowadays. I'm not going to poo-poo YouTube. I love watching, if you follow YouTube, the Modeliste. It's this guy on YouTube. I think I'm not going to say what Asian ethnicity is, but I think all his stuff is in Japanese, but he never talks. But he does it's almost like what they teach in school. It's very specific on construction. He'll tell you how to do it. He'll show everything. So I love following certain YouTube videos and discovering new teachers or people who advocate how to do something in the fashion industry.
Awesome. Can you give us some tips on social media, how you promote your business and how you hashtag, and what are some social media tips you can give aspiring designers?
I'm still trying to understand Instagram. I don't understand why, like, if I post something, it's about work or stuff I do, and it only gets like 27 likes. Granted, you should not only do it just because it's likes. It's just a mystery to me. I try to post, for me, stuff that people don't get to see often. So I'll post my interns working, or a certain promotion we'll be working on, or schematics on a garment, like to show. For instance, I did a post on, I was altering men's blazer, and usually you get the, when you take something into the dry cleaners, it just, they just want to get things in and out, get it done and get it done and get it back to the customer or client. I'm very particular because you're messing with other people's clothes. And if you mess that up and you cut stuff out, you can't put it back. There's no tape and glue for clothes, especially if it's something as elaborate as like a wool sports jacket that's meant to be tailored to someone. So whenever I'm doing alterations, I'm very careful, and showing that to people is, I think, what impacts my social media.
Great. We have time for one last question. So
Okay.
In a few words, what do you like best about being a fashion designer, and where do you find your style?
What do I like about being a fashion designer, and what's my favorite style? Okay. What I like about fashion design is, I think what appeals to me the most is everything on the inside. Like, you could talk about making, or actually making, pretty things all day, because that's the outside. It's like painting over a piece of wood. It's what holds the whole thing together. A dress isn't going to work unless it holds up everything. And I'm talking about gravity. So learning construction underneath, boning, different seams, what fabrics work together with what thread, different construction methods. There's so many ways you could go about it. And the more you understand, which is why I still do alterations, the more you understand what goes on underneath impacts how a garment will look on the outside. So there's more to it than just stitching things together. And what was the other question? I just forgot.
What's your favorite style, or where do you find your style?
Like I said earlier, it varies between 20s and the 60s. So I'm very vintage as far as that goes, with Art Deco or Art Nouveau. I find a lot of inspiration as far as the architecture of a design. Probably the 20s are my favorite, just because that was like the start of it all, and they were just losing more undergarments and getting rid of more under construction, and just letting the female silhouette show at some point, to try to modernize it with men, because men had it a lot easier as far as how they dressed as opposed to women. So.
Well, thank you, Sean. That's all the time we have for questions right now. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Trent.
So we wanted to give a big thank you to Sean for participating in today's virtual meetup. If you guys want to see more of Sean's designs, you can check out his website, his social media accounts. Welcome back, Kedlin.
Sean, thank you for sharing your FIDM journey and giving us insight and what it's like to be an entrepreneur and a designer. Don't forget to connect with us on social media platforms at FIDM Fashion Club, and share your club activities with us by tagging us at #FIDM Fashion Club. So if you didn't have the opportunity to come on camera today, definitely share how you are staying inspired. And if you have a question, feel free to email us at info@fashionclub.com. Trent and I and the whole FIDM Fashion Club team, we're always here to assist. So we hope that you have an awesome weekend and stay inspired. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Sean.
Bye, thanks.